Questions?
No.
Recording in progress. Okay, fine. Now I have got these to pass out. These are the drafts with Benedetti's corrections. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Either
Either on this end or this too.
Nice to meet you. Not recognize my mouse click.
Okay,
Mouse
very
isn't awake.
good. Mary Jo, I'm gonna remind you.
Morning, Matt.
Okay.
Good morning.
Because we had comments last month.
Time they couldn't hear.
Couldn't hear you. and
Okay.
especially when you,
Turn my head.
Put it up there.
Okay.
Yes.
I just paused.
Oh, yeah, we have usually Dawn on and Bruce.
Okay.
This was up here. Is this yours? How are you doing today? Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Down for you guys.
So everyone, unfortunately, these monitors are not powering up. We will have Mike Williams here on the Zoom, but he will be able to speak and you'll have the audio.
These are three. And there.
So would Mike and Mark come in, Sally? Do you know nothing, or
Oh, my. Lots of things to review.
it hasn't been that long yet. It's,
Well, as soon as Arden gets here, we'll the show on the road.
Well, it's 7:04. Why should we wait till 7:30?
Okay. We'll give him
We'll
that.
give him a drum roll when he walks in.
No.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Brooke. Hi, John.
Always the last one.
I figured that.
Jesus.
Good morning, Matt. Welcome to the group.
Hey, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. House bill.
Yeah, they didn't know.
The lady in front of us, she said, it'd be nice.
Pamela, did I hear you say that you had a copy of a contract down there?
What a concept.
Okay.
I don't know.
Somewhat used, but we'll figure it out. So we'll talk after this.
Got 4 for some reason.
Thank you.
Get all the extras down here. This is the same one that you're reading now.
Oh, yeah. Except for small. Right?
Yeah. We printed them out. I guess somebody else did too.
All right.
You know, she helped a man move. Got a hold of her stuff and things. She's trying to get it uncovered. So I'm done. Keeping herself quite busy. Uh-huh. It's like, now what? How about you guys? You staying busy? You ready for another meal? Great.
All right, the drum roll, it's 7:29, Arden's now here. Grand entrance. So,
That's true. Okay, hi Arden. All right. We're all here ready to go. Call this meeting to order, 7:29. The roll call for Pamela's for her information, we'll go around and everybody say their name for roll call.
Arden Weatherford.
Tony Bird. Rusty Neal.
Mary Jo Larson.
Jerry Good.
Al Bourne.
John Gamelke.
Matt McCracken.
Okay, And can I get you, Jerry, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, on to additions, deletions, and corrections to the agenda. I did find out that CK Patel will not be here today, so we'll take him off of the agenda. And that's all I have. Are there any other additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, could I get a motion to?
We did all receive, or I believe, an email yesterday from Sally with a contract from the attorney. Is that on here?
That's under attorneys.
Okay. Okay.
Regarding Mike Williams.
It's regarding Mike Williams. Okay.
Then it'll be under Mike.
Okay.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve this agenda?
Here's so.
Okay, Jerry Good makes a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second? And Al seconds it. Thank you.
Yes.
And we still, am I asking, do we have any minutes? We haven't sent them out. Do we have any minutes to approve? I would take that as a no, so we'll table the minutes until the next meeting. And go ahead, Pamela.
I'm sorry, I didn't start. I was waiting to this meeting to get your names down so I could recognize your voice.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll just table all our minutes till the next meeting and good luck with that. And we'll go to DDA staffing and meeting times. We have Pamela. And I think Pamela has talked with John and does have the recorders to do the minutes. Am I correct? And I have an update on that.
Rebecca?
It's Rebecca. not
It's Rebecca.
I'm sorry, Rebecca.
It's okay.
I'm sorry,
that's why I
Rebecca
was looking at
Allen. I know that. I'm sorry. So you've met with Rebecca?
And I have downloaded the files. They are on my computer. I just wanted to get the voice recognition here today.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And we do have a contract, Rebecca, and I do have a used one that Al gave me last time. I'm trying to get a new one. So we'll follow through with that. And if John, you'd like to be a part of that, fine. If not, we'll just get it put together. So we'll get a contract for that. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk to Rebecca about, or?
To be clear, she's starting now, correct?
Yes, because we haven't really had anything for her to do prior to this. Am I correct with you?
Yes, and so anything you guys need, please feel free to call me or email
Okay.
me, and I'll check it every day.
Okay, and I would like to have, and I think this falls under job description, if you could notify all of the board members of our meetings and any kind of correspondence in between, because we can't really talk back and forth. So if you could be that liaison for us. And yes, John?
And
I would think to just keep the point of contact simple, that perhaps she should filter through me for anything that she needs to do for us, and that you guys could come to me and then I could go to her. I think that would be a better way to approach it than
I
her
have no
having
problem with
every
that.
board member calling her or emailing her.
I have no problem with that. I wish you'd keep me in that loop as well.
So then I have to report to you each time that somebody calls me?
No, just now and then, just
Okay,
to kind of keep, just so we're on the same page and we don't embarrass ourselves.
okay,
And John, let me restate it. So what we're agreeing to is that we will all direct our actions to you, the secretary, and then
yes,
you'll coordinate with our admin assistant.
yes. That way there's just one point of contact for her. It saves a lot of confusion on her part.
And then I had one question for Rebecca, but I'll go ahead and ask you, John. Getting the agenda
She's right
posted, I know, getting the agenda posted on the website, will that be your responsibility? Because right now the citizens have no access to the agenda.
Yes,
Okay.
And that agenda will come from me And if any of you have anything you want on the agenda, and that's per bylaws, and if anything, you have anything you want on the agenda, please contact me.
Can I ask, how did, I didn't receive this, and so last night I went on to the city's website and found it. So somebody's putting it out there.
Sally has
Sally.
been kind enough to
Yeah.
do that, and I have worked with her, and we have put the agenda together and
Yeah.
have gotten it out. And Arden had a couple things he wanted on the agenda this time, and they're on there. Al had something he wanted on the agenda, so we put that on there. So contact me if you have anything you want on the agenda.
Mary Jo, can we have Sally explain where it is then? Because I'm looking live at the agenda button, and when I click on it, it does not pull up today's agenda.
It's posted on the calendar.
I believe, right, Dave?
That's correct.
So you have to go to the calendar
Okay.
on the front page.
Mhm.
And before we go too much further, I passed some handouts. We were not on our website yet, and these few things that I have sent have been some correspondence between myself and Mike and Sally. So that's all it is. It's just a copy so that this board is kept up to date on any other activities that has happened. So that's all these handouts were. You can read them at your leisure. If you have any questions, fine. Let's move on to meeting times. Well, first, let me finish. Rebecca, are you good? Do you have any questions you need to ask?
I do, but I believe I do have a couple I need to ask the whole board, is that correct? Okay, I do. So about the website, are we using the old website or are we updating to a new one?
We have a new one, and Tony, would you explain that, please?
Well, we don't have a website right now. Right now, we have email. I think that's what you're referring to. I think you're referring to email, Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Mhm.
so email addresses, thanks to the city, have been distributed to every board member. I think everyone is on as far as I know. I dropped it off personally or called you personally. So basically, and I also did with you. So Rebecca's email is admin@city-woodlandpark.com. And so we'll send her the roster, or we'll send John the roster so he can direct her to distribute it to all the board members. So, and if you want to include your cell phone, we can make that happen too. But in terms of the website, we're still going to work with the city to have some pages to hang our information off of, so we don't have to have yet another website. So it's all consolidated. So we're still working on that.
Okay.
And I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this, but my second question is, how soon do you need the minutes after the meeting? Is a week acceptable or?
Just as you can get them done.
Okay, and do you want them summarized or do you want the whole thing word for word?
Corey did it word for word. I
That's
would leave that up to this board. Does it need to be word for word, or will a just consensus be okay with the actual recording as a backup?
Word for word is actually easier unless you really want it summarized.
Okay, it's up to the board.
Well, I'll just point out how the city council minutes are done. It is a summary in which, in the summary, they put a time hack in the Zoom meeting so that as you come to an agenda item, you click on the time that's embedded, a link, and it takes you straight to the portion of the Zoom meeting that you can then watch the entire presentation. That's how the city has decided to do it.
Well, but that takes somebody to do that, and I'm not sure.
I could do it both ways. I could do it one or the other. It's really, I could
It's up to the
accommodate.
board. Some comment.
I would prefer word to word.
Okay,
Um,
any more comment on that? Then we'll just go word for word.
That's fine.
That
And
works.
as far as logging my hours in, I believe there is going to be a form somehow.
I would say you and John work that out.
Okay,
Like I said, we can get together after this,
thank you.
Rebecca.
And that's all my questions. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. For Rebecca, then let's move on to meeting time. Oh, I do have one more thing. We had talked about an executive director because of development happens. The board voted not at this time to have an executive director. I want to tell the board that I did go to the first, I believe it was the first.
It was the first.
First budget meeting of city council and asked them if they would consider the position of an executive director on their behalf, like we did before, where they paid 2/3 of that salary. We paid 1/3, again, 2/3 for a secretary, and they pay 1/3. If that was something that they were interested in doing for the board to consider it, I don't know where that's going to go, but I want this board to know I did ask if that was a possibility, not obligating us to that in any way. Just asking if that would be a possibility, just so you know I did that.
Mary Jo, I
Yes.
Got a comment about that. I think that has a potential, I think we had problems last time. And I think it has the potential to too closely tie the city in with the DDA, which are supposed to be separate entities. And I think there's just potential for things to go right. It's just my opinion.
And there was problems before, but it's new people, so we'll see. But I did do that. I just want to know, we'll see where it goes.
So something like that would be brought back to the board for a vote,
Of
right?
course, of course. It was just, that's what I said. It was just for reaching out to see if there was any interest on the council's part. And that would probably come up if there is any workshop that we do. But of course, all of this is up to the board. So moving on from staffing, meeting times, Arden requested that he'd have some thoughts on our meeting times.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about meeting in the evenings. Doesn't have to be on Tuesday, but I think we might get better public participation in the evening, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, something like that.
Conversation?
Well, I'll just add my 2 cents. I think this meeting time is it's very, very good for the board members, probably for making it to work. But if we're trying to allow the citizens to be able to watch, they too are getting ready for work and driving to work at the time. So they very seldom have an opportunity, unless they're retired or they take a day off or they work late. It's just a very bad, it depends what precedents we're trying to set for the citizens. Do we want their participation and knowledge of what's going on, or do we want to make it convenient for the DDA? So I would also like to consider Arden's thoughts.
More conversation.
I think we all have, a lot of us have businesses to run. And that's probably why this was that time. And I think that as volunteers, it's important that we feel comfortable being a part of this and not interfering with our business.
Okay. Matt, you have something?
Yeah, I like the idea of the citizens' participation. It is early for a lot of people. I have little kids. I'm up at 5:30 every single day, but right now in this time of my life. But and of course, this time is ideal for a business owner. But I also think that having more citizens here is really important for the things we're discussing. So I would say a time more like 5:30 or 6 would be better for us as business owners, because we all are.
Yeah, 3 o'clock's not gonna work. Somebody said 3. No.
Well, council meets at 7 for a reason in the evening.
Mhm.
So
5:30, 6,
maybe
7?
even 6:30, because, you know, people are commuting from the Springs. If someone wants to make the meeting, 6:30 is probably doable for someone who gets off at 5. So,
Well, and I can say that when we had some controversial issues going on, we had more people at our meetings at 7:30 than the council did. I can remember that. So when it's something important, they do make it. So Al, you got something?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the thought process of defining the property corners well.
Oh,
and put
no,
some-
I mean on times.
Oh, on times, I'm
Yeah, 'cause
sorry.
we're
I
still
thought
on
you were
that.
already.
No,
skipping
we're still
ahead.
on times.
On times, yes, later in the day, like with others here that 5:30, 6:30 would be better, because I do have obligations in the Springs each day.
Mhm.
7:30
Well-
works okay for me, but 5:30 would also work well.
Okay,
What time does Jerry, what time do you close your office in the evening?
At 5.
Okay, so 6.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, what time do you close yours?
at 5.
Okay.
5:30 would be good for me.
6.
5:30,
Yeah.
6, what?
So
I
Somebody
think
say.
I
I'm
think
not
6:30.
speaking for Matt, but speaking for myself, being in the trades, I'm not even winding down my job site till 4:30.
Yeah.
So I mean, and to get here, and I can be in Black Forest, I can be in Divide, just depends on where I'm at
Mhm.
across. So
Okay,
6:30, I think, if we're gonna set an evening time, I would say 6:30.
okay, and then I would like to go to Sally to see what can we get the room for. That will be, that will be the next problem.
That's correct. That's exactly why I raised my hand, is that this room is used quite frequently in the evening. On the first Tuesday, I don't believe Teller County uses it, but they have usually a Tuesday night meeting. But I believe that's the third Tuesday.
It would be nice to keep it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Tuesday works.
Okay,
So that needs to be juggled with the city clerk.
okay, so do you think maybe the first Tuesday at 6:30 would be open? Just from what you can tell?
Right now it is,
Okay,
but Teller County has been using
Using
this
it
room on
first.
Tuesday evening.
Is there another
Tuesday.
day, Sally, where it might?
Wednesdays, there's teen court. Monday, there's Board of Adjustment. Thursday is Planning Commission and City Council. So it's quite busy. And then we have court in here on Wednesdays.
Mary
Yes.
Jo, I would make a motion that we move the meetings to Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month at 6:30, pending confirmation with the city that the room is available.
I'll
okay,
second the motion.
okay, and do you have the names? Rusty Neal, Tony Perry made the motion, Rusty Neal made the second.
Thank you. I was, this, thank you.
That's a good point.
Okay.
We should probably be very
Please
conscious.
do
of
that
doing
because till she gets recognizes our
Yeah,
voices, if we would do that, please, for her.
Thank you.
Okay, do I hear any comments on that? If not, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed?
I, no.
Jerry's opposed?
Yes.
Okay,
Jerry was
okay,
opposed.
Jerry's opposed, everyone else was okay. Jerry opposed, okay?
Mary Jo,
Yes.
maybe in line with what you said earlier, maybe we should do a process similar to the city where John would call a roll call in each vote so that each person can,
For the record.
yeah, for the record. So basically for each vote, John, what our city clerk does is states the name of the person voting and then they vote so that it can be recorded easily.
Would that help you, Rebecca?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We probably have to get you a list so it's easier to work from.
I can see them pretty much.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going down to developers. Mike Williams, you have seen John left a draft out. Through Sally, we printed up a draft, the smaller version that has the corrections that Paul Benedetti made in red on it. So that's the difference in the two contracts. They're basically the same. One of them just has more corrections on it.
There you go.
Yes.
Before we start discussing this, I would like to talk about Arden recusing himself from discussions on Woodland Station due to a conflict of interest.
Well, you've read that every time. Do you need to read it again? Is that what you're
No,
saying, or do
I'll
we
let-
need to,
I think
I
Arden
think-
should recuse himself
to discussions about Mike Williams?
about anything to do with Woodland Station.
Any comment from the board on that?
We need a second and a vote.
Well, any comment first?
Well, then we can go down each property owner that has a business right by and do the same vote. It's not just Arden. We should take the same vote on everybody that's got a business that is adjacent to the property. If
It
that's
has
the
nothing
ground.
to do with it, Rusty. and you
What
know
is
it.
the grounds for it, Jerry?
It's because of his history, his involvement in
He
Woodland
was a
Station.
plaintiff in a lawsuit in which he won at trial. And
By
why should he be
winning, if
penalized?
he really would have won that, he would own Woodland Station.
Have
He
you,
does
not true. Have you read
Okay.
the lawsuit?
Rusty.
Have
he's
you
in a
read the lawsuit?
conflict of interest, and you know that.
I know what
Okay.
inside and out.
All right,
Jerry.
all right, Rusty. Okay, point taken. If it gets deep into it, then we will determine whether that's a conflict of interest for Arden or not. I don't think anything about it, because he still sits on the board. I don't think anything about it should be included. If it comes to a vote or something on that premises, then we'll discuss whether he should recuse himself or not.
Rusty, you made Jim Pfaff recuse himself on the trailer park deal, and he was just a tenant. He wasn't an owner.
I voted to have him recused along with the rest of the council.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so how is Arden any different?
You have to tell me what the basis of the conflict of interest is, Jerry. What's the conflict? Just by saying he was a plaintiff in a lawsuit,
That is
that is not
involved.
grounds.
He was
If you read
involved.
If you
He
read the
had 3
paragraph,
contracts on that property that I'm aware of. And his desire to own that property and to receive, he's definitely stands to profit from any decisions made about Woodland Station.
have you read the conflict of interest statement? He must make a significant
Sure, let me
increase
read
or
it again.
decrease.
He reads it every time.
I know he does,
So then.
but he
that's
doesn't
no
absorb
question.
the words. Is he
Yeah, I
making a significant increase or a significant decrease different from any other business
This
person
should have
around
been
him?
solved a long time ago through the city council, but you ramrodded this through, and you are responsible for this condition. And I will find out what steps to take to rectify this if you continue to
Follow the law?
All right. Now, if we need to move on, if there is a vote, then we'll decide whether there's a conflict of interest. Arden does have property that adjoins Woodland Station,
So
and I
so
do
you.
know that
So do you.
So do I. I'm right
Does
across the
John.
street,
Mhm.
kitty corner.
I'm talking. Can I finish what I'm
the
saying?
borders it, though.
So if there comes a time when I know that if Mike and his group move forward, that they want to consider the whole adjoining properties around that. So he will be brought into it, whether we like it or not. At that time, we'll determine who's a conflict of interest and who isn't. Sally, do you have something, would you like to? put in
Madam
here?
Chair, I just wanted to let you know, Mike Williams is online. He has his hand raised. He's ready to be able to speak.
Okay, can we move on to Mike Williams now? Okay, Mike, please go ahead, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can,
Well,
loud and clear.
Great. Well, it's several names and faces that perhaps have seen but don't know. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to each and every board member and participant party. So thank you for this chance, first of all. Yeah, I'll be glad to address and answer any questions, and perhaps this wasn't the right format, but I would like to mention that in one of the last meetings that I was present in, it was either the last DDA meeting or it perhaps may have been the meeting with Sally Riley in the office conference room there. But each time Al Bourne mentioned that Arden Weatherford, the owner of the AmeriGas property, needed a septic line to go down through Woodland Station to allow him to move forward with his progress. And also I understand he needs a detention pond if for some of the possible pursuits he wants. Now, as a developer, we're certainly interested in everyone developing their property around, and we would do everything we could to facilitate and help with that. So that would be our intent, absolutely. But I do think perhaps that answers the question that Rusty Neal was bringing up, and that he definitely has the possibility of being rewarded more so than the average business owner around. And then I'll go back to your question or comments.
Thank you, Mike.
That, Jerry, is what you should be stating, a reason for it, not just based on a lawsuit in the past. That was a very.
Okay,
said the
hey,
lawsuit, not-
all right, we need to move on with Mike. We can argue about this another day. Mike, we have, you have sent to Paul Benedetti. He in the past drew up this draft of inclusive negotiation agreement, exclusive negotiation agreement.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
do have a draft here that has been updated by Paul Benedetti, who is our attorney that writes our contracts. All of the board members have that. I can honestly say they have not had it long enough to really digest everything on it. I don't know. if
Joe,
Aaron-
just Friday, I received from our developer investor more comments. They've just had time to review it and have their attorney look at it themselves. So that's, I understand that to be the case. That are you looking at the second copy that had 3 different points posted on it? Like
Yes.
the end of the, okay, that's, I was just making sure you had the right one and not just the first one.
Yes, no, this is the last one. I received this from Sally yesterday. So this was the latest one that we have. And it was brought to my attention that Article A and Article B, that those two had not been submitted yet. I mean, I'm sorry, Exhibit A and Exhibit B had not been attached to this yet and submitted yet. So that will have to happen as well before we can approve it. But it is out here, and I would like to hear your comment on this. I did pass out a shared email of what the this new development group would like added to this. And I would like to hear some conversation from the board and yourself on that.
Very good. Would you like for me to go first, or are there questions?
You go first, yes.
Okay, well, first of all, because I'm just catching up, I've had a brief conversation, I think, with a couple of board members that are new to the board. And they haven't been privy through, at least as board members anyway, through all of our discussions. They may have watched them via Zoom or something else. And this has been quite an extensive, and I wouldn't say arduous process, but definitely a lengthy process for us. When we first came expressing interest in any portion of Woodland Station at that point, we'd been introduced by George Christian and posed the possibility of 1 to 2 businesses, not very much, and definitely not anything that would give a master plan for the entire property. As things develop, we're very excited to see Derek Wagner and Tava House and their group come forward and thinking, okay, well, this will really begin to develop pieces, and then we can maybe see eventually a master plan with multiple different parties adding 2 individual lots and really pulling together something very good and unique and profitable for the community. But of course, when that did not transpire, we were considering and were even asked by a couple of board members, but even prior to that time, we've been looking at saying, well, if we phased this development, would we be capable of pulling off the whole thing? As a business owner with many different contacts and resources here in the Smoky Mountains, I can see many of the different entities and possible concepts here being very well received by the public and lucrative, and definitely building on what I understand to be all of the purposes of the DDA stated on the website. So based on that, we began playing with that idea. Now, we came at this backwards, and it's definitely caused probably a lot of questions and maybe perhaps even a little bit of loss of credibility, because we came at this saying, hey, we're some small business owners. I believe we could develop this phase by phase, but in the meanwhile, we need to look for a bigger fish that can really help us if we're to do this at any more expeditiously. And we've done so. We've looked, and just to give you a brief history, Jimbo Connor used to be the city manager for the beautiful city of Dollywood and Pigeon Forge. And Jimbo owns a lot of different things. I've had discussions with him. I had discussions with the DeRocha team and Philip DeRocha, who is a very strong real estate guru here in the Gatlinburg area. Now, several of those said that may be a little farther out than we want to go. We also brought Paul Bennett, who was a mentor and business owner in the Smoky Mountains, owns several very good businesses, and has also been in the housing industry and in the overnight rental industry. Paul came and walked the property with us, discussed it, proposed a couple of new concepts that we in fact made connections with that we would like to include in the overall master plan. Paul also just purchased a mall in in Estes Park. And then we also brought the #1 hospitality housing guy in all of Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. Gatlinburg came out from Texas, he and his wife, and looked at the property over the summer as well. So we've been looking a long time, but then what we kind of realized is we maybe still needed, that would have brought several more parties to, as well as other people that I've introduced previously, like Scott Gardner, who was the president of the National Hot Rod Association and had owned several racetracks, including the one outside of Denver. I forget the name of it immediately, but owned that drag strip. But what we found is we still were kind of struggling to put the team together like we wanted. It didn't quite have that right concept or feel. And we were missing the one big player that could pull all of this off with their liquidity, with their experience, and definitely with their capacity for funding and et cetera. Well, that individual actually, I say individual, but it's a corporation, actually sought us out. And we found a very great fit with them. In fact, they are interested in bringing their team out soon. Their international group, ability to fund projects, and have done projects up to $70 million. And if I'm not mistaken, they're probably the only developer, investor, and they will also be an equity partner, bringing capital to the project as well, should we choose to do it. But they're probably the only people that have ever come with a complete or will be coming with us with a complete master plan to do the whole project at one time that will offer many different things, many different components to locals as well as increasing tourism. And it could be a benefit and exercise many of those points, if not all, that the DDA says that it exists for on the website. So we're very excited about those guys coming along. It's definitely taken some time. And as I mentioned, we came at it backwards, but we honestly believe when we're able to do a presentation sometime in the future with them present, that it's going to bring a very positive response from anyone who wants the best for Woodland Park and not is into individual pursuit that might benefit some, but not all. So that's kind of where we stand on that. And they were the ones that made the recommendation, their attorney, and my direct upline with this group made those. And they said typically, they love to see a document. It's about 2 pages long instead of so lengthy, but they do understand they're dealing with a council and a board and et cetera. So I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has now.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mike? And then we'll go to comments. Any comments on the
I've got a
draft?
question.
Well, and thank you, Mr. Williams. It's been a few years since we've had
Tony
discussions.
Perry.
I'm sorry, Tony Perry. Thank you. Sorry about that, Rebecca. Couple of things. One, I think very much looking forward to hearing who that group is and what the bigger picture is. Looking at this agreement in terms of exclusivity, just to be honest, it's hard for me to agree to an exclusivity agreement without at least having some sense of what you're trying to accomplish, frankly. And then the other point, Ms. President, is I'm concerned, or I need to understand what our protocol is, because it looks like we, as the DDA, allow parties to engage our attorney and incur expense on behalf of the DDA without us being aware of it. So I want to know what the protocol is and how the attorney is engaged, because I see an email from Mr. Williams on October 1st direct to Mr. Benedetti, which is, that may be fine, but I want to understand what the previous DDA board did, and what the protocol is. I wouldn't recommend that as a board member. I think we should manage the attorney process, but it'll be part of that discussion. Because if you let the attorneys manage you, you end up spending a lot of money. You have to manage the attorneys. So anyway, so that's a pointed question on our process, but very excited to hear where you've evolved to, Mr. Williams, personally. And look forward to, and I think, we're having challenges getting kind of the board together and understanding our processes. I would argue that maybe you do a presentation to 2 board members at a time so we can all get up to speed quicker without having to have a special session or a meeting, if that's amenable to you, because I would like to hear where you're at.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your input. To answer a couple of those, of course, it's clearly understood and only reasonable that you'd need to know more before possibly signing an exclusivity agreement. The concepts remain that had previously been presented. If you want to go back and look at any of that as well yourself to review the things that John Romano, I think it's NES, perhaps, had done a couple of different. One was an overlapping bubble concept, and the other was showed some more individual concepts. So one would show perhaps a corner, this corner being used for hospitality housing, this one for entertainment, this one for restaurant, this one for retail. So you may want to go back and refamiliarize yourself with those drawings. Or I'll be glad to forward those again if you'll tell me which party to send them to, so that they can be passed around, because those are not completely being redone. And so this, I understand it's a new board, but we are revisiting a little bit of old ground. But I'm glad to do that. Concerning the me contacting the attorney directly, the attorney had sent, with the authorization of some previous board members, a draft to me asking for my input. So my response to them was not to avoid DDA members, but was in fact following what the former DDA had said that was the next step for me to do. So I'm not trying to incur attorney fees. I was simply following the protocol that was previously established. Whether that protocol changes, I'll be glad to abide by whatever that is, but that's the direction that I was following.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, and then third of all, it has been proposed, the parties involved want to bring a team from the new investment development firm to the area and discuss it and review it and walk over it. And it had been proposed that we perhaps bring a couple of people, a couple of board members, and then maybe even a couple of others just from the community, at least at some point, to discuss that with them. However, these guys, as I mentioned, Tony, I feel very fortunate to be able to even get their attention. And I highly doubt they're going to have the time to meet with 6 to 8 different people on 4 different meetings to discuss the same thing. And I'm sure they will at some point be glad to either send a representative, but I mean, these gentlemen are very busy doing international projects. And so I don't see, now, as far as myself and Mark Crozier, who are going to be the local feet on the ground more than anything else, would be glad to do that. But I don't see the investment development team seeing that as a very wise use of time, especially if that's what's required before you could even sign an exclusivity agreement.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, I think you and Mark would be fine to at least catch all the board members up and to give us an understanding and share who that group is if you can. You may not be able to yet.
Correct. Yeah, we're just waiting. They're about ready to pull the trigger to allow that, but they will be soon.
Okay.
And my comments on that is that if we could call a special meeting, it would be best if everyone heard the same story, that we're all on the same page and not 2 people heard this.
Just not executive session and open
Right,
session, correct?
right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that'd be great.
So I think that we could call a special meeting when you get to that point that you have something to present.
Yeah, sooner than later will be best.
Okay.
I might add,
Any
because
more
we
comment?
had, I might like to add, because we had previously had some contacts. I know that some of you may have felt put off or whatever else, and we've not meant to do that. We just knew that we weren't ready. I know that quite a while back, Rusty Neal, you mentioned that you'd like to meet with us and discuss the need for more housing in the area and et cetera. And not that we didn't want to do that, just at the time I was seeing shifting team players and thought, okay, this is a bigger project than our expertise and funding can carry. But I wanted to add that this individual group of developers and investors, one of the specialties in their wheelhouse is sustainable housing. So I'll give you a little bit of what they are about. This comes directly from their mission statements. They build better companies to produce better communities. They help as co-founders with recruiting, managing, and management and legal, financial, they've established some of the best business technologies through IT to date, to even compete, work closely with Microsoft for quite a while, and even Bill Gates in some of their stuff. Their whole goal is to come into communities and create sustainable value. And what they're really looking to do is help diminish some of the blight of communities, especially downtown developments, help in the development of individuals help of the individual community members create better economic strategies that produce the benefit of all, and then also to come along people like myself and Mark and bring us along as apprentices in growing communities. So we're really excited. We think this is a real godsend. We're excited about them. I think when you guys see the strength that they bring, the expertise they bring of 30 years of doing this to a great degree. Many of the projects, one of the projects they're concluding right now is 600 acres. But the other benefit they're excited about is one's located east of Colorado Springs. The other one or two, I think, are located in Denver. Their office is located in Denver. And they said, this is our backyard. We've been doing this around the world and in our country, all over our nation. We've done several projects in Colorado, but this is our backyard. If we want to help anybody, let's help neighbors. So we're really excited about it.
Thank you, Mike. We're glad you put together such a good group. This is sounding encouraging. So hopefully hopefully we have reached a tipping point so that something will happen. Rusty?
Yeah, Mike, thank you very much. I would like to introduce some new information to this body and to let them know I have been working to try to stimulate ideas of what other things could be done. And Mike, you may not be aware that a House bill in Colorado just passed. It's 21-1271, and I would ask you to look that up because
Repeat that, Tony. Repeat that.
it is House Bill 21-1271. It's an affordable housing funding or grants program. In fact, we have John Schaefer in the audience, who is a gentleman I've met with and am meeting with later on again with Sally Riley to see if there's new ideas in which we could tap into some of this $37 million that has now been appropriated by the state for assisting affordable housing. There are prerequisites the city council would have to approve, and I haven't even had an opportunity because this is so new to discuss it with the city council. But in looking at a menu of things that the city could do, you have to meet at least 3 of the menu items out of maybe 2 dozen options. There are 3 that I think I might be able to generate sufficient support where there could be a sizable amount of money that could assist projects like yours, Mike, if you were to reach out, and John, I'm kind of prodding you here, maybe to reach out and talk to them about how you might be able to incorporate some of this affordable housing in that area. There are other projects. I did discuss it, full disclosure, the concept with Arden. I said this new bill came out. Have you reached out to John and possibly spoken to him? An idea would be for developers to reach out to Mike Williams if in fact something starts to materialize, because I'm just trying to get more pokers in the fire so we can get something going.
That's good.
If in fact there is something that were to come out with Arden, then Jerry, because of what Mike provided, which is a foundation for a recusal, I would join you in asking any votes that might entail Arden being involved to recuse himself at that time. But for this point in time, nothing is solidified right now. But I'm trying to get some groups working together where there's some state money, sizable state money available. We have a desire to do something. We have a wonderful piece of land. Sally also pointed out some other pieces of land, which will also city council consider that. But I'm just trying to let the board know, I'm trying to stir some activities with any possible combination of investors, developers. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with Mike.
Yes, and thank you, Rusty. We will do that. I'll pass that along to my direct upline. Like I said, one of the key components, they actually work with sustainable energy, sustainable food sources. Many of them are farmers and ranchers previously, but also they've done lots with sustainable housing. And so I would imagine they're probably, unless, just depending on how new this is, in fact, sounds like it's right off the press, but they would definitely want to jump on board and know about that, not only for here, but additional projects they'll be doing as well. So I'll definitely get them in on that information. And yes, did you say it's John, who's the gentleman in the audience that we should communicate with?
Yes.
Yes, I'm representing Habitat for Humanity. Okay,
John
so someone
represents
could,
Habitat for Humanity.
oh yeah, okay, Habitat, great.
Yeah, I'm here as a
Will
representative.
either provide me or him with either of our contacts. We'd love to get involved in that.
Yeah, and I can make that happen, Mary Jo. I have
Okay.
contact.
Rusty will
part
take
of,
the lead on that.
One of the things that we have added to our overall ideas is inclusive in that is seeing housing that would be more economically affordable, whether on the actual Woodland Station property, or we would definitely be in support to date. And we have, again, we're just getting ready. We want to be able to get an agreement in order so that we can feel comfortable making a sizable investment in the master plan. That's our objective, to know that this property really is available, and you know that public interest is being looked, and we get a good fair shot if we bring the best thing for Woodland Station. Obviously, we'll work with other properties, adjacent property owners around, but to date, lot 2 is still being something that's going to be more above ground and not require as much foundation, so that yeah, we could, if Arden proposed to get involved in this either exclusively or with us, including some other properties, that we could provide what he's needed so that he could develop that valuable property that he's there right on Midland Avenue. So yes, we want to help every way possible.
Well, great, Mike. Well, you keep moving forward and keep in contact with us. And as soon as we get some information for Exhibit A and Exhibit B, then maybe we'll have enough that we can move forward on our end.
Okay, thank you, Rusty. I appreciate that information, sir.
You're very welcome.
Any other comment from the,
Don't forget, John.
John, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I wanted to thank Rusty for talking about this surprise $37 million that we're going to be competing to build affordable housing. One of the firm requirements, though, is that these projects must have the support of cities and counties. And so, as Rusty mentioned, we spent some time talking about some options and perhaps some opportunities, but the support of the city government is key to this application. So we're excited about $37 million that just kind of fell out of the heavens, that there's going to be a lot of competition, of course, across the county for the $37 million, but it's money we didn't know we were going to have. So look forward to working with the DDA and city government. So thank you.
Good. Yes, it is a good surprise.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
here?
Rusty, I'm sorry, Jerry.
So does it have conditions with that? I mean, there's a sizable piece of property between Safeway and Walmart and all. Is that even a consideration that would be fairly appropriate for
Well,
housing.
yes, and I'm aware of that property. And we've got a lot of thinking and planning to do. We're very much interested in mixed use projects, and I assume that Mike Williams is talking about that in the master plan. So we've got opportunity for retail and living capabilities, sustainable as well. So there are some very hard requirements in this 7-page document, which is the guidelines for applying for a project. And I'm a little overwhelmed at looking at some of the things that we have to be doing to even apply. And so we've done a lot of thinking and some reading, and we have a lot more work to do to see if we can come up with a project that will meet these strict requirements. And one of the projects, one of the requirements is that this money has to be spent by June 30th of 2024. And so no excuses. And there are a lot of government agencies involved. And so we've got to be working with all of those. But another
John, could I possibly get that application emailed to me? Go ahead and put it in the hands of our developer.
Yes, if someone can give
That's
me.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams.
Yeah. I'll be happy to send you an email with the guidelines for competing for these funds. Someone just has to tell me where to send it and what your email address.
We have his email. We have his
I'll
email
provide it
address
to you,
right
John.
here.
Okay, so Rusty said that he will give me that information, and I'll send you a copy of Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Guidelines, yes.
So John, my train of thought is that, is it possible that we don't have to compete against projects? I mean, both Mike's and yours could work in conjunction. It does, and if Mike wants to develop Woodland Station, there's other places for this project. Is it just Woodland Station that it would have to be in? Yeah.
Wherever we would have an opportunity.
Yeah.
In Woodland Park or within Teller County.
Very good.
For a project, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any more comment from the board? John?
In the email, Mike is asking for this 120 days to start by either 10/15 or the latest 11/1. So in that, does that mean we need to vote on this today?
No, because we can't really vote on it today because we don't have this draft is not complete enough to vote on it today because of Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Sally, would you like to explain that to John?
I don't need an explanation. I just want to know,
Okay.
are we going to then try to vote before the 15th or before the 1st of next month?
If, Mike, if you can get anything put together that fits Exhibit A and B, and we'll have to call a special meeting and we can do that to expedite it. If not.
I just think I think those dates were just based on the wisdom of our developer to call for expedient action rather than delayed. But obviously, if we haven't submitted everything, that can't be the case. I see no problem with it being at the next DDA meeting.
Okay, okay.
It's a good.
I don't want to lose the opportunity if we have the
I don't
opportunity.
either. Okay, Matt, you got anything you want to say?
Not right this minute.
Okay. Anybody over here? We're all good? Okay, and just as the last thing, Mike, thank you so very much for zooming in, for keeping us abreast. We're really excited with this new developer, and we're here to work with you as much as we can. So keep us informed.
I'm excited to be a part of the Teller County community as both a resident and hopefully business partner. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Okay, then moving on from Mike Williams, Al wanted a survey of Woodland Station. Al, go ahead and make your points.
Can reflect on that a little bit. Historically, what I have been trying to do was to basically monument corners on the property so that a prospective buyer of the property might know exactly where his property is. I went a little bit into some of my archive material and to see what I had as far as previously defined documents. And also I worked with Sally Riley, and she was very gracious in copying a bunch of the papers, including a preliminary plat that's dated August of 2011. I've looked that over extensively, but let me back up just a little bit. Interestingly, on this exclusive negotiation agreement, they asked for a Schedule B. I might have that document right here that was developed previously. This is a non-monumented reflection on that particular piece of property, showing the some of the lots as well as the vacant land through there. So I would submit that maybe this matrix design group that did this, probably in association with 2011, might give us at least document B immediately. Kind of
That would be
coincidental.
good.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Should I submit this to you at this or keep it?
If you submit it to me, I will see that everybody gets a copy of it,
Sure.
and we'll follow
'Cause
through with that.
That was just one of the documents that I happen to have, and I brought that into here.
I'll make sure you get it back too.
I did talk with one of the surveyors on this particular piece of property. Rampart Surveys has done quite a bit of work there. They have reestablished some of the corners already, and they know where they're at. So they did also the work for Woodland Hardware in defining that particular piece of property. Matrix Design was involved, and Rampart Surveys has been involved. And in talking with the principal out there, Eric Simons, he is willing to move if we wish to do that. As I looked at the preliminary plat, kind of an interesting document. It does show a lot of stuff. This particular document, which is this one, shows a great deal of things that we've talked about historically, such as rerouting the ditch that runs down through the property. However, that particular thought process, Corps of Army Engineers temperature a number of years ago when we were looking at the swimming pool, they were not real excited about that. So that might not work. 9-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of streets might not work going forward. So this is an indication. It shows also the perimeters, but I thought it was kind of an interesting document that Sally was able to produce for me. And we paid for this, you know, in 2011.
Yes, we did.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. That my desires were to do a monumented survey so as to show exactly, you know, where things are, and then potentially see if there's any direction that we want to move forward. However, with today's presentation of this exclusive negotiation agreement, and also contained within this agreement, it indicates under 5.1, the developer's covenant. Developer has inspected and is familiar with the character and location of the property. Maybe we put this on hold until we get through the 120 days and see where they're going. And we may not need to incur that particular expense.
That would be good.
The idea was, you know, to really design that property so that it could be moved forward as a a parcel that is affordable by certain smaller ventures to develop it in some way or another. We may not need to do that. We can see what Mike Williams brings forward and then re-entertain this topic at a later time.
That sounds good. And hopefully that works and he can move forward with it. We don't have
And
to.
if he doesn't, we
But-
can always pick this up in the spring
Exactly.
and still move forward with that.
Yes.
Mary Jo, if I can get, and Al, if I can get copies of that monument survey and the drawing that has all the other sidewalks and et cetera, email to me as well, that would be.
Okay, we'll figure that out. We'll
Such
get it to
things
you.
in this preliminary plat that Matrix had designed. It looked like it was going to be a kind of a cumbersome thing that dirt would have to be moved to take out some of that higher elevated dirt in order to put in a street. I think they call it Short Street. That would probably mean retaining walls and that kind of stuff, which may not be the best, we'll say, use of development money. So does it have a lot of good things in it? Yes. Does it have some problems? Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, we can eat throughout the bones.
It certainly shows the topography there and gives you the impression as to the lay of the land. But again, it does not show what the drainage basin is going to be and what must be done to address the rainwater sewer, stormwater sewer type stuff. That's all part of, the future development of that particular piece of property. And we can see how Mr. Williams moves and then we can move forward from there.
Okay,
Did you want to see that?
okay, that's good.
Mary Jo.
Mike, we'll see you get that. Yes.
How, can we just ask Al to email that to him since Al already has it? Is that how it
I
can
would say
happen?
it'll probably come through Sally because Sally's probably the one that has that.
I
If
think
you could forward that to everyone, Sally, would that be possible?
we just want to forward it to Mike Williams. He's asking for a copy now.
Do you all want a copy as well? Does the board want a copy as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Then we can email it to everybody. So maybe
That would be my job.
Rebecca could do
If
that.
somebody would send it to me,
Mhm.
if you have my email, I'm in DDA.
She
Yeah,
can
I don't
send it
have
to
it as
you
an
and you
email
can send it
file.
to-
I got it as a
Thank
hard
you.
document.
Okay, then I would need to scan that.
We
Yeah.
can
And
scan.
do all that. I can handle that if I
I think
get
I
my
have it.
Williams email address from someone.
Okay.
There are
Thank you.
much larger presentations
If
of
that's the
this
case.
also that Sally had indicated that she has.
And we can probably, Rampart did most of the work on this, you said?
Yes,
Well,
Maybe we can-
Rampart did a lot,
Mhm.
but also Matrix Design did something
Sure,
that resulted in the preliminary plat being developed.
okay.
But undoubtedly, Rampart is closest to it probably.
Sure. My
Probably would be
recommendation,
the expert in the area.
yeah, my recommendation would be to reach out to both of those firms to get, so that, because if we scan something, it's the document, it's got a lot of information on it.
Yeah,
They can get us a larger format document
Yeah.
in an email form. So probably be good to reach out to them, Rebecca.
And their name again is?
Rampart Surveying.
Sally
We can get your
had,
contact information.
Sally had volunteered to get me one of the big documents, but that's not what I needed.
And Matrix Design.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sally, do you have any comment on all this?
Just wanted to remind the board that this preliminary plat has expired. It is no longer valid. So a developer knows that they always start with a concept plan that then develops a preliminary plat to a final plat.
Okay,
And I'd be happy to just send the electronic documents to Rebecca and then she can forward it to everyone.
Sally, I've already sent it to her.
that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sally, for getting me all these documents as promptly as you did.
Okay, then moving on. The discussion of DDA.
Quick,
Wait,
just about the discussion. Are we saying we are not going to go ahead and survey so we have a final plat?
We do have a final, we're not gonna, we're not going to get, the monuments. But we're gonna wait until Mike Williams follows through with his proposal to see if it's necessary to spend the money to do that.
Okay, going back to something, Tony, you had said that you had desired to have the corners of the whole thing platted final, because we legally can't do a thing with that land for any project right now.
Sally, can you please?
Yeah, you cannot final plat a property until you have preliminary platted it. So monuments come with a final plat. The surveyor can stake the property and identify those boundaries with a boundary survey. But you're not doing a monumentation until a final plat is produced and approved through the planning commission and the city council.
Yeah, I think with further discussions with Sally and the work Al's done, I think I'm comfortable with the approach Al's taken.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to connect is what Tony had said earlier.
Okay, so now we go to discuss the DDA.
Yeah,
Okay,
let me get one more point. All four corners of this particular piece of property has markers. These are usually buried. The corners for the Woodland Hardware are defined. So they're there, but you just got to find them. And it's pretty tough to go out there, you know, in the grass and try to find them. So that's why a surveyor can pinpoint them very closely. So, but the idea that I had was that I wanted to have something visual, even as simple as a T-post to show people, you know, what's out there on some of these corners. Before we would be able to go into the preliminary plat and then migrating into the final plat, there's a lot of work that'll have to be done to define certain portions of that property, such as if we're going to have a place for the cog car, that's got to be defined. But that comes later. The idea was to have, you know, a gross demonstration as to where the property lies. But at this point, because we've got this negotiation agreement on the horizon, I say wait until after that occurs. And if it expires, then that may cause us to think differently. So I'm not pushing forward for any action at this time, other than information.
Okay. All right, are we satisfied? In lieu of time, we're running out of, we're not gonna get out of here by 9. A discussion about DDA attorneys. In answer to your question, when we talked to the attorney, any of that conversations are copied by myself, by the treasurer, which we don't have, so it would be the secretary now, and whomever else is involved in that particular issue.
But I wasn't.
So there always is several people that are copied in.
So who was involved on this one?
That one is, well, we don't have a treasurer, so myself and Sally Riley were the ones involved in Paul Benedetti's revamping of this.
Let me
draft.
clarify, I am not involved in the agreement. It
No,
was just on the email and
Exactly.
forwarded to everyone. Please understand, I am not your secretary. I am not a board member.
Right, which she said secretary, and I thought that that was a position given to me
Well,
by the board.
Before, I was explaining to you before it went to the treasurer, because he handled the finance, myself, and whoever else was involved in whatever the issue was. Al was never really part of that loop. Now, if you want to be part of that loop, you will be part of that loop now. We are just getting our emails set up, so.
If I can speak, I don't care that it's me. I just think it should be more than just you. That's all
I
I'm
think
saying.
it should be as well.
That's all I'm saying.
And
Whoever that is or however that works out.
My understanding for disclosure, open disclosure and transparency that whenever I contact any board member, I should contact two. Is that correct?
No more than two.
Two or more.
Contact more. I think.
Not necessarily. I mean, that whoever you contact, it's their responsibility to make sure whoever the other person is included in that.
Right, and that's why I had contacted you, Mary Jo. And I also understood Sally to be somewhat of the communicator. So anyway, just clarify what I need to do so that I don't
Sure, no.
transparency concerning what we're doing.
And that's why I gave you copies of what has been transpired through me, so that you don't think that there's anything going on that this board is not included in. So
Yeah.
that's
so-
why you got the copies.
Yeah, so Tony Perry, for the record. Yeah, so I think Sally makes a good point, and I think thankfully Rebecca is on board today. And so we have to, Sally has been very gracious in
Very
helping to
gracious.
facilitate communication, but it's not appropriate for us to keep using her time. And so we need to make sure we communicate through Rebecca. And technically John is working with Rebecca as the secretary. So let's make sure we funnel everything probably through John, if that's what we discussed earlier, and then he will get it to Rebecca. Then she can push it out to all of us.
Right, to finish my statement, I think that John, now that he's an active secretary, should be the one to handle all the correspondence with the attorney and the other, he and myself. Or whoever is the chairman, but I think those are the two that should be now. Our treasurer, we don't know who that is until we get a new appointment. Then we'll pick another treasurer. If we want to include that person as an alternate, that would be fine, if that suits the board. Okay, and any more discussion on attorneys? We do not have any attorney but Paul Benedetti, and Paul Benedetti is really only for contractual issues at this time.
Okay, well, we don't have David Neville anymore?
No,
Why not?
we haven't needed him. So there's no reason.
Okay, well, when you hired David Neville, it was because,
He handled our lawsuit. That's all he really
well,
did.
that wasn't the reason given when you hired him. You said
Oh, okay.
that Paul has current other clients that require a great deal of his time. And that's why we were hiring David Neville.
Yes.
So if did he quit? Did you fire him?
I don't think it was that big an issue. I just don't think we have any need for him any longer, and that was fine with him.
Was there a board discussion?
I think there was. Help me out, Al. Jerry, was there? I mean, we just didn't need him any longer.
Just haven't engaged him.
Right, I
Haven't had a
don't think.
project to engage him into.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a general understanding. Should we need an attorney, then we would discuss whether it be David Neville or Paul Benedetti or someone new, but we hadn't had that issue, so we hadn't had that conversation. Are you done? No.
No, I have a few other things about this.
Okay.
Rusty has a question. Go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to find out, do we have a contract with either gentleman, Paul Benedetti or David Neville? And if we do have a contract, where is
I
that
don't believe there's a
document?
contract.
So how do we engage him legally? So that we have a legal obligation and an appropriation to pay him?
I guess it's just, there is no contract. We just hire him at so much an hour. I really cannot answer that. That was not part of I don't know.
How does Paul
Do you
Benedetti
know?
then get?
How do you
I can't-
remember?
No, I cannot remember ever us having a retainer and a contract of performance with an attorney. It's been on a as-needed basis and not a continuing engagement.
Right, because we don't want to pay an attorney any more than we have to. So only when we need one on certain occasions. And he has given us a discount rate because we're kind of a quasi-government volunteer group. So that was a good thing for us.
So how do we? if we
And
have-
he submits an invoice and we approve it and then we pay it. And we are budgeted for that money for attorneys. So,
It was my understanding that he was also the city attorney. Is that correct?
no,
No,
Oh, okay.
no. So do we want to get formal? Do we want to have a contract? Do we want to turn it all?
Well, you've got a contract with Neville.
Oh,
When
we
you
don't.
hired him,
Well, we don't have him anymore. That,
okay, well,
That's
according to
done.
this, you should have gotten all the documents back and you should have had a final bill. And Tony made a core request for bills that were woefully inadequate. So if Neville was hired for the lawsuit, what was Stephen Rupp hired for?
well, the two of them did it.
Okay,
They
well-
came as a package.
All right, so
Do
if
you
Neville doesn't
recall
work for us
any
anymore, we
difference?
should get our documents back. Because when I've concluded business in the past with attorneys, I got a big fat bill and a pile of documents.
Well, we did
anyone
too,
get
and we
those?
paid them.
You got what? The documents?
No, we got the bill and we paid it.
but we should get the documents also.
The documents should be in those clips that we got.
Not his documents.
Hmm.
All of his documents should be turned over to us when he's terminated.
So what's your reason?
So what do we need to do? I don't know. As far as I know, you got them all. That's what I've. Tony?
Thank you. Tony Perry. Yeah, so for context, I've been thinking about this a lot to kind of inform the new board members. There was a lawsuit. During that lawsuit, I actually took personal time off from work, and I was the only citizen that attended every day of the court hearing, except for one day I missed because I had to go to work. And I really wanted to understand what was happening, what was going on, and why I'm glad this is actually on the agenda. I found out a couple of days ago it was on, and I've been thinking about adding it to the agenda is one, we need to define a formal process for how we engage attorneys and how those communications work. You are right, I haven't seen that document, but if we haven't disengaged formally with those attorneys, we should. And as I've been processing the last several years and thinking in the best interests of the community and our tax dollars, trying to figure out why we got to that point. The one thing I keep coming back to, which is why I was thinking of adding the attorney discussion to the agenda is, frankly, I don't know Mr. Benedetti, but if I were engaging Mr. Benedetti at that point and we were talking about a potential breach of contract suit, and I think about the previous DDAs and that we are volunteers, I think it was incumbent upon the attorney at that time to help the DDA board avoid that situation and understand the legal ramifications and the risk to tax monies. And so I've been thinking for a while that we need to seriously consider looking for a different attorney and starting fresh with new expectations. And we're not kind of a quasi-governmental entity. We are a quasi-governmental entity working under the umbrella of the city. The city council is responsible for overseeing, monitoring, managing us, frankly. And so I would say as part of this discussion for DDA attorneys, we should seriously consider looking for a different attorney. And I promise you, Mr. Benedetti didn't give us a break because we're a quasi-governmental entity. That's his core business. So we should look for another attorney. We should engage that process properly. We should have a contract. We should have clear lines of communication defined and clear expectations and any expenses. We've been kind of letting the attorneys bill us without us managing the process, and that we are delinquent as a board if we continue to let that happen. And now that I'm on the board, I will keep talking about it until we get that rectified, because it's our responsibility to manage these finances with prudence.
And I would, go ahead.
Well, first off, Paul Benedetti is one of the best attorneys in the state. He's a fine individual and he's never done anything inappropriate. I would question whether you're bringing your animus against him because of the lawsuit. Now, Paul Benedetti knows what goes on in this board more than anybody else. And to take that knowledge and that understanding of what's going on and discard it out of what appears to be an animus that you have against him.
I will frankly tell you, there is no animus. I just prefer to do business in a professional manner and in an appropriate best practices manner. And I have no dog in this hunt. I didn't spend a penny on the lawsuit. I spent some personal time off, but that was as a citizen because I wanted to understand what the question was. And the question was, did the DDA breach the contract? The answer by the judge was yes. And frankly, I'm a DDA board member now. I take responsibility for previous board actions. So I can't do anything about what we've done in the past, but we can establish a new path forward. And I think it's important with everyone we do business with, whether it's CK Patel, whether it's Mr. Williams, whether it's Habitat, that we do so in a professional way that's defined, that we have best practices, and we stop using the excuse that we're just a volunteer board. No, we took this responsibility and I take it seriously. Just as seriously as I do at my job that I do every day, 7 days.
And
a
I'd
week.
like to say the rest of us do as well.
I agree. So let's just do it right. And I'm not impugning Mr. Benedetti. I don't know the man. All I'm saying is what I observe is if I were the attorney, I would have, well, let's ask you, we have 3 board members who were here. Did Mr. Benedetti say, if you proceed with this lawsuit, you're at risk of breaching a contract and you could lose? Did you guys hear it? Did any of you hear that? Period. Just question. I want to know the answer.
I was not in contact with him.
Okay. Mr. Warren, did you hear that?
I do not remember that. Yeah.
Ms. Larson?
So what you're saying.
No, my point is you should have understood what the ramifications.
Mr. Benedetti didn't try the case.
No, he recommended the attorneys that tried the case. And my
Yes.
point is that this board should have been informed of the risk of proceeding versus negotiating in good faith. That's period.
Yeah, you're definitely.
Okay, well,
Tony, I have a question for you, sir. How does that affect the current exclusivity document? Are you
I don't think it does.
proponent that because it was written by Mr. Benedetti is good?
Oh, yeah. No, I have no
Start
problem.
over, excuse me, or have to start over again. And I can tell you, that's one of the issues that large investors, they're not interested in seeing the rules change constantly. They're interested in, and in fact, if that's my understanding, that's exactly why Tava House went away. Because they never could get footing. And so I need to understand if I meet the requirements of Exhibit A and B, will that be looked at, or will that be said that was written by Mr. Bennett? Are you proposing that if that's written by Mr. Benedetti, then that exclusivity to negotiate contract is no good?
Not at all. And I'm only speaking for myself because I'm only one board member. No, I don't think, I'm not questioning Mr. Benedetti's work or this contract or us proceeding forward with evaluating that request. We're talking about a larger picture here that has nothing to do with your project, other than I would argue that, and I'm very familiar with Tava and why they dropped out as well. As a matter of fact, I helped them find the property they're going to. What I would argue is that I'm arguing for clear best practices and clear expectations moving forward from this board so that we can signal to the marketplace how we're going to handle everything, and that we're going to handle it professionally. So I would argue that your large investor should feel better about this board, that we're trying to be adult professionals up here, trying to do a better job and learn from the past and, move forward. But I'm a big believer in best practices. I'm a big believer in making sure that everything is clear and communicated properly, that there's no confusion about the lines of communication or who you should send information to and how that gets disseminated to the rest of the board. That's been part of the problem. We just heard 3 board members that do not recall ever hearing something from the attorney telling them of the risk of the decisions they were making. And that's a problem. And I will not accept that as a board member.
It doesn't mean he didn't say anything.
I would like to interject here that I do take offense that we are that we are not irresponsible, that we have run this professionally. And there was something about negotiations. That's why I talked to Arden 3 times before the attorney, trying to come up with some kind of a different negotiation plan before the lawsuit started. So there was something said. Can I remember the day or time and exactly what was said? No. But we knew the ramifications and we did run it professionally. And Paul Benedetti was brought to us by Beth Cosley, and we felt very, very honored that we could have access to such a high-powered attorney, because he did understand DDA. He helped write DDA and urban renewal, and he is an excellent contract writer. Of all the developments that we have done within the DDA, we have not had a bad contract until it was changed by some of the board members of the DDA, which were eliminated. And that's when the DDA board took hold of the reins themselves. So, if you want to dig up old crap, we can go back on and on.
So,
But Paul Benedetti, as a contract writer, I don't think we can get a better one. And there wasn't, and I'm sure there's a contract somewhere. I will call him and find out where that contract is and what it is, because we did do it professionally, but Beth Cosley handled it.
yeah, so I want to be very clear. We have 3 board members who were previous, even Mr. Coy. I have a lot of disagreement with Mr. Coy, but I also have a lot of respect for a lot of good things that you 3 members and previous members have done with respect to the DDA. What we're talking about is establishing a new standard to move forward. And if you're saying that it can't be improved, I beg to differ. I think there's a lot of areas that we have to improve dramatically from my perspective and standards that I set. And again, not questioning Mr. Benedetti's credentials. I just don't have confidence that he is the best choice for us to move forward with. Given really all we're talking about now, we will not allow another lawsuit to happen, in my opinion. And all we're talking about now is working with Mr. Williams and other developers and other parties to make sure that we get this process completed and that we unwind the DDA in its life cycle appropriately, that we do a proper deal with CK Patel if we choose to do so. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not disparaging anyone, period. Because if I were on the board at the time, I would have been saying the same things, and I may have been a minority voice. That's fine. But right now, I am up here and I do feel responsible and I take it seriously. So again, no disparagement intended, and I'm interested in moving forward.
All right, so I had a few observations. Having lived through the whole trial, having seen a lot of documents, Mr. Benedetti gave you guys some bad advice. Maybe not personally that you heard, but he did advise David Budry. I had no case whatsoever. Had you sat through the trial, you would have seen the embarrassing episode where he was in an executive session that he shouldn't have been in. So as far as not doing anything improperly, there it came out at trial. And so I don't think this board has been represented well over the years. And recently there's been at least one occasion where I found one of the attorneys telling something to the city that was provably false. So when you've got attorneys out there spreading a false narrative, it's time to intervene. So I would suggest we start fresh, like we started fresh with a lot of other things. There's a lot of attorneys out there. I would make a list of every attorney I've dealt with in the state and tell you, do not deal with any of these people. But I don't think we're being well served anymore.
Like I said, Paul Benedetti was hired to write contracts, and everyone he's written has taken care of the DDA board very well.
But that's not what got him in trouble.
And that what got him in trouble.
Well, I just went through it. There was executive
He
session
wasn't hired,
violations.
he wasn't hired to be, to advise us on any of that. That's why we had to get new attorneys, because that wasn't what he was
Okay,
for.
well, you just
He
told
was
me
for
that would
writing
quit.
contracts. So do we want to eliminate it? I don't care. He's already quit once, so he has no problem in moving on. But you know, what's best for us, for the city, for this board in our new contracts that are coming, because he's done very well in protecting us in that respect. Okay, Al?
I have a comment. I would be concerned if Mr. Weatherford was allowed a vote concerning who the city attorney is, since he sued the DDA and this would have been the opposing attorney. I think he should also be
Objection.
himself from a vote about.
I object. Please stop talking. I have an objection. Point of order. You are not
All
a
right.
board member. You do not have freedom to enter into discussion at your will.
Thanks.
Again, Al, go ahead.
Methodology to move forward on this. There are a number of DDAs around the state. Would it be wise to search out with them who the various attorneys are around the state that have experience with a downtown development authority, or secondarily as an urban renewal authority, where they have the experience and awareness of what goes on here? But that may be one source of finding out who has that expertise.
Well, and maybe since we're taking everything back to the city where it was before, maybe the city attorney can just write our contracts.
No, we need
I
our own
mean,
attorney.
you know, that's what we want to do.
This
get the city
organization needs a
involved.
separate attorney.
Yeah.
We already, I asked the city attorney a while back if that was even a possibility. It's a conflict of interest. It's not a possibility.
Yeah.
Somebody's
But
worried
there are
about
attorneys out there that have expertise in this area more than just one man. So we just need to find out who they are. Another DDA legal representation will be able to tell us that.
Okay, so who will volunteer to research that and find out who these attorneys are?
I'll take that on because I can work with the city attorney for a list of suggestions.
Yeah.
All right, Al?
Sally,
And then,
is CML a resource for us on that type of information?
It probably would be Al, but the city attorney would be able to provide a list broader than just what's on the CML, because I've asked him for other attorneys for other things in the past.
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to
John.
make one more comment.
all right, and then John had his hand up first, and then John.
I am concerned. I hear everything that's going on here. I hear all the points. I am concerned with what Mike said of this developer or any developer being this far into a contract and then we change lawyers. That might not bode well with I'm just throwing it out there. That might not be the proper time to do something like this. So I just want to throw it out there so that we know. I would hate for us to lose the opportunity that he's bringing forward because we feel like we need a new attorney. And I understand, I hear it, but I think we need to be pretty aware of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and now Tony, you have
I
a comment?
agree with Mr. Gamelki. This is Tony Perry again. That we have to be careful with that. And all I'm suggesting is that I think we should explore other options. I also believe, I'm talking about my perceptions based on years of observation, kind of being on the outside looking in. I also believe in, never had a discussion with Mr. Benedetti. I would love for this board to have a discussion with Mr. Benedetti. I want to hear where he's coming from. I want to hear his perspective because all I'm talking about are my perceptions, but they're pretty strong perceptions based on a lot of evidence that I've seen and observing the trial. So no, I don't think we are going to harm moving forward with this current contract or any contract, but I do want to explore this issue.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to offer John a factual piece of information. Paul Benedetti has rendered emails that are factually incorrect to me as a city council member, that I've had to engage the city attorney, Nina Williams, to correct him on his legal interpretations of the law. They were so incorrect in what he was putting in emails. So I am not in favor of continuing. I understand the risk that you talk about by changing horses in the middle of the race, but having received factually inaccurate, 180 degrees off information, I question where his motives are in what he's saying.
Does
Thank
that
you.
have to do with contracts?
Yes.
And
case
if I
law.
might, and I know this, is Paul, is he still dealing with people that are not current board members?
No,
Are you sure?
I would say, I
You
would
would s-
find out for him, but I would say no, because he would have no reason to,
I'm not, I don't,
but I'll find out.
I
How
can
will you find
factually
out?
state
I'll ask.
he is engaged with non-board members,
current, right,
current non-board members.
right.
Which was- I know it for a fact.
Well, show
Tell
us.
us how.
I will share the email threads with the board then to show you how.
I'm interested in seeing.
I am too. So get all the information out there.
I-
And if you'd like a workshop, we'll put that on a workshop with Paul Benedetti, if you'd like that as a workshop.
Well,
Okay,
I'm waiting for the
we-
discussion to
we're-
end.
we
I would
are-
like to make a motion.
We are,
I would like to make a
all
motion.
right, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to formally terminate the legal relationship with Paul Benedetti and David Neville and engage an attorney on a one-time basis to draft a legal termination letter.
There is no way that these two gentlemen should be involved in any kind of vote. And apparently you're showing. by-
Jerry, would you just wait for the motion to carry out its
I'm.
Robert's
not-
rules, because I'm going to make
There'll be
a
discussion.
request for recusal on this vote. But I'm making a formal motion to terminate the legal relationship at this time with Paul Benedetti and David Neville and engage a different attorney to draft a legal termination letter.
My major concern with this, Matt McCracken here, my major concern with this is that we've got a contract with a serious investor right now. That there have been mistakes made in emails or legal advice by this attorney is concerning to me. But what's more concerning to me is to scare another investor away because of some protocols that we clearly need to work on and change. So that's all I have right now.
Madam Chair, did you get a second?
I have not gotten a second yet.
And you should not be discussing the
Correct.
motion.
Yeah, you should wait for a second or it dies.
So I hear no second. Okay, at this time, that has died.
No,
I'm
I
sure-
would like to reiterate, it died for lack of a second. Even though my instinct says that's the direction to go, I still stand by. Let's have a discussion with Mr. Benedetti. I do believe having lots of work with attorneys that we can maneuver this with Mr. Williams or any other developer appropriately without damaging that opportunity. But I do want to hear from Mr. Benedetti. I think it's only fair. I do want to hear and see Mr. Neal's additional information, because I think that's relevant to this discussion for a future discussion. So I would ask right now that we put the discussion of the DDA attorneys on the next agenda.
Okay, I will do that and to finish this, on the discussion of the attorneys. I would like to put together a workshop, possibly with city council at the same time, with Paul Benedetti, and they can meet him as well. We will move that to the next agenda item. So this attorneys will be on the next agenda. And dates for the DDA workshops going right into city council and Paul Benedetti workshop. Can I hear some conversation about that? We're still working on city council. Have you got a time that we can have a workshop with city council?
I haven't
Rusty?
received anything from the mayor.
What do we have to do to expedite that? Do I need to contact the mayor and set up a time?
It would be the chair and the
I
mayor.
will do that then, and we will include Paul Benedetti in that, and I will ask him to be here as well. So,
Ms. Larson?
yes.
I have seen at city council where the city attorneys did a small training session on defining conflicts of interest and helping the audience and the city council understand the definition of that, because reading a law and understanding the law are two different things. So I think it would be helpful for this board, for all of us to hear what are the salient points in terms of when it is a conflict of interest and how
Would
it's
you
applied.
like that as part of the city
Yeah,
council?
I think we should ask if they, and frankly, I think the city council, the more exposure they get on it, the better as well. So
Yeah, FY, Mayor Joe, I have a
Yes.
point of information. I'm a member of the Charter Review Committee, and one of the 3 charter amendments that is being drafted is a clear definition of the conflict of interest in our city charter, because it is very poorly written right now, and the city attorney is gathering municipal examples that will be brought forward for a final proposal for a charter amendment on conflict of interest. It would be a very educational benefit for everybody to see what a conflict of interest truly consists of. There are Title 18 conflicts of interest and Title 31, and they are different. 18 is a criminal, 31 is more administrative.
Right. All right, so I will talk with the mayor about that. And then DDA and city development projects. I'd like to set a time when we can sit down and talk about some different areas in the town that need to be addressed. John brought this up at a couple of meetings ago. There's parking behind the hardware store that was supposed to be finished, like 18 to 22 parking spaces behind the hardware store that was supposed to be finished when they developed the hardware. It didn't get done, so I'd like to talk about working that into the new development and what we can do to get that finished. It's a hazard. Can't get a fire truck around that corner and down that alley, and those people need that parking, and the Woodland Station site will also need that parking. There is the it used to be the old auction barn just right north of the fly shop. That is kind of a blighted area. I'm not sure what the deal is, but if we could get that in as a discussion and maybe help them develop or sell or do something with that site. Just some areas like that around town, just talk about it, brainstorm what we can do to try to make this last 10 years of our DDA really put our money to good use and give it some thought, and what the city has planned in some of those areas so that we could maybe work together. So that's what that workshop is about. Do I get an approval on that, just to kind of set up a date, probably in November?
Sure.
yeah, sure.
Okay, and then goals for the DDA, I think that can be included in the development project to kind of set some goals that we'd like to see in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, and what we'd like to see by the time we finish in 32. So we'll kind of tie those two in together. And then the CML training, Rusty, you and I are still working on that. Have you come up with a date with them that they could come down? You said November was a good time for them, isn't it, Sally?
The city manager, Michael Lawson, has been communicating with CML Executive Director Kevin Bomer.
Mhm.
And Kevin is available on Tuesday, December 14th. That is the second Tuesday of December.
So
We
we could
just
just
need
tie
to-
that into our regular meeting.
No, it's the second Tuesday.
Oh, the second
Not the
Tuesday.
first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Not the first.
Okay, second Tuesday then.
So just need to pick a time.
Okay, what is better? How far does he have to travel?
Denver, from Denver,
Would 6:30 be a good time for him?
in the evening.
Yeah.
Sure. You think
Can we
so?
see if the room is available? If that works for him, does that work for the board?
If not, we
We've
can
picked that as
always-
a meeting time. So would that be a good time to have this special meeting with him?
For point on the wall, yeah.
Yes?
On the 15th, you said?
14th.
14th,
Uh-huh.
December 14th, 6 PM.
Yeah. Mhm. 6 or 6:30?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30? 6:30.
We'll
Okay.
make sure that works for
Well,
him
there's-
and check whether this room is available. If it's not, we can find another space,
Okay.
cultural centers. and other
Okay.
space.
All right, that sounds good. Any more discussion on that? Then we'll move to general discussion. Matt, let's start with you this time. Do you have anything you'd like to say or any drum you'd like? to
Thanks for
beat?
having me.
We're glad to have you on board.
That's, I don't have anything else.
Okay, John?
I don't believe I do know.
Okay, Al?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Okay.
I keep my mouth shut.
I don't think I have anything either.
I have nothing.
Just a question, do you know when we have to submit a budget to the city from the DDA?
Well, I'm not sure. They're working on their budget, so it's soon, October, November.
Or we have to
But
submit?
we have to, I would assume, wait until we have a treasurer. Do we want to pick a treasurer before we have the last position filled, or do we want to wait till that position is filled?
I just think we should know when it's due, so we have a target, someone can do it.
We'll find out.
Sally, do you know that answer?
But staff has already been advised to have their budget done. So you're already
We're
behind.
late,
the eight
So
ball.
we're already late, so I'm not so sure we can wait.
Okay, then John, shall we set up a time and we'll put a rough draft together on a budget and then submit it to the council or to the board and then work on it further?
I'm not the treasurer.
I was
Well,
gonna say, Mary
Well, we
Jo,
don't have a treasury yet. so
this Thursday, the 9th member will be voted on by city council, which we could then call a special meeting to at least make the appointments of who the treasurer is and any other changes. It could be a very brief meeting, and then the treasurer could start doing exactly what you're saying. But we're only talking 2 days from
What?
now.
What do you want to have a special meeting? That will be next week, next Tuesday. Can we
have
get
one
next
Friday.
Tuesday?
Well, you have to post it also,
Well, but we could post it,
post it for.
whatever, I'm available.
Is that a morning
We can
meeting or
do
an
it.
evening meeting?
You decide, and we can do it Friday. We can post it. We can post it now
We
and have it done before, then after we get the appointee on Thursday, we can have a meeting on Friday. We can, obviously, it's whether the room is open or not.
On Friday, the 8th. In the morning or evening or daytime?
Your call,
You know, what works for everybody.
Morning.
morning.
I can make
Well,
whatever.
since it's a short meeting, we could do it at 8:30, whatever you choose.
Am I required to be
Okay.
here?
Mhm.
Okay, then I have a work conflict already that I had no idea. I will have to cancel that because you guys come first, but just let me know if this is gonna happen. For sure.
And maybe you don't have to be here. I
It's a
mean,
quick, short.
it's a quick, short meeting. We can record it and you can.
Just let me know either way.
All right. So we're doing it Friday morning after Thursday at 8:30, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Okay.
Who is producing the agenda and getting it posted?
Rebecca? Okay, 8 o'clock. And this room, is it available Friday morning at 8?
I believe it is usually.
Okay. Okay, then we'll just do agenda quick before we leave. Okay. All right. General discussion from the audience. Pat, do you have anything?
just wondered who's doing the books since you don't have a treasurer.
Well, we're picking one and nobody. I mean, it's all on hold. So.
We haven't, I
Really,
don't, yeah,
John is doing somewhat of the books. We haven't paid any bills. We haven't done it much of anything.
well, I would imagine that the lawyer would have submitted a bill since this was written up since the last time we met. I don't know. who
I'm
pays that.
sure he's probably got some September bill to submit that we'll get, so. Sally, anything? John, thank you for coming today. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
Thank you for coming. You bet. Okay, Rebecca, you anything? All right, then, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Al moved to adjourn,
Second.
second by Rusty, meeting adjourned. That was really.
Well, Matt,
It's not the first.
better to